People, are you living or are you just existing? Are you complaining or are you conquering? Are you trembling or are you going to thrive? It makes no difference because right now you're tuned into Derrick Live. Hello everybody, how's everybody doing out there? We are at May the 30th, 2017. I hope everyone had a wonderful time. I'm excited today on Derrick Live because you know what? It's Business Tuesdays. Every Tuesday we seek to talk about business. And I am so excited today, you all, and I have to turn the music off for this. I have a special guest. If you all remember last week, I did a case study on the company Hoop Swag. And I talked to you and told you about the founder and the CEO, Brennan Agranoff. Well, he is here today. And you know what? Without any further ado, we want to go ahead and bring him on. Let me make sure you all can see him. Brennan, are you there?
Yes, thanks for having me.
Oh, no problem at all. I thank you really for coming on this show. I tell you, I learned about you from CNN Money. I was reading an article in CNN Money, and it talked about your story. It talked about how you started when you were 13 years old, and now you have a reputable company by the name of Hoop Swag. You all, my listeners out there, make sure you go to Hoopswag, HOOPSWAGG.com. Get you some custom designed socks, and I'm telling you, you will definitely won't be disappointed. So, Brennan, today I want to talk to the young entrepreneurs out there because I have young people that listen to this show. Take us back 4 years ago, because honestly, when I heard the story about a 13-year-old not just going to school and doing his work, but doing that as well as starting a company, I was like, oh my goodness. Take us back in the mind of this young 13-year-old. Why did you start this company?
Yeah, and so honestly, when I was 13, I mean, like that was where I was. But this all sort of like my whole entrepreneurial spirit actually started probably when I was like 7 or 8. So do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So when I was like 7 or 8, I remember the very, very first thing I sold was we had this neighborhood garage sale every year. And I went over there. I must have been like a second grader or third grader. And I saw this set of locks. And I was like, wow, this seems really cheap for this. And so I go on my mom's phone, go on like the eBay app or whatever. Check the price of it on eBay, and it's $15 more on eBay than it is at the garage sale. Right. So I'm thinking to myself, like, well, can't I sell it for that much? Like, can I have the money? And so I bought the locks. They were like $2 or something, and then I turned around and sold them on eBay for $17. And that was my very first transaction I ever did online. And at that point, there was something that I just loved about the fact that you can sell something to anyone in the world. Like, that was extremely intriguing to me. And so that sprouted into a whole bunch of different things. Like, I kept going to garage sales and flipping things. I would take pictures of my goats, actually, and sell those online. And so through all this, I, like, learned how, like, e-commerce works and how business works and how to do things. And so by the time I was 13, I was a 7th grader in love with Elite socks, like Nike Elite socks. And all they had at the time was, like, white, black, blue, and red. And so there was these companies that started popping up on Instagram with these really cool socks. Like anything you could imagine they could put on these socks. And so I was amazed. And so I was like, how do you guys do this? So I saved up my money all one summer and then ended up buying a pair at the end of the summer for $40, which is just absolutely ridiculous, thinking back. And so I wore them to school. I literally wore these things every day. I wore them to basketball and school, and all my friends thought they were like the coolest thing ever. So at that point, I was like, okay, how can I duplicate this? How can I make more of these? Because since people love them so much. So I spent about 6 months researching online through forums. I was going to print shops talking to them about how to make these socks. And it was way more complicated than you would think. No one knew how to make these things. Like I tried at least 10 sample runs. They were all just awful. They failed. They didn't work. But eventually I found it online. I was talking to some guy in a forum. There was some hidden form that I found online, and I figured out the process that was required to print them. And so from there, I started talking to the companies that sell the equipment for that. So then by summer, I had an entire plan set out. I had what I need, the equipment I would need, like the socks, where I get them, how much they are. So all the numbers are laid out and all that. So at that point, I couldn't just buy like go get a loan for it because no one cares if it's not going to work. So I went, and it took me about another month just to find someone somewhat local who could print samples for me, somewhat of the similar equipment. So once I had some samples made, I tossed them up on eBay and they sold out instantly. And at that point, I kind of confirmed that I was onto something here. And so after that, I basically laid out a business plan, all the numbers, everything, how long it would take me to make my money back, all that good stuff. Presented it to my parents because at that time they were like my biggest supporters and I didn't know what else to do. So they looked at it. They thought it was a little off at first, like this is weird, like you're going to get a loan for socks, but it ended up working once they saw the numbers. So, I mean, that's just a little bit about like how I got started.
Absolutely, absolutely. What I definitely want to talk about on this show, we talk about the unique thing that you can offer to the marketplace. I mean, everybody, let's face it, a lot of people find starting a business to be very attractive. And honestly, they don't really focus on the unique thing that they can offer. They just figure out, okay, what's going to sell? Talk about, your unique niche, if you will, the socks. Why did you choose the socks? Because you could have, chosen several other options. Why the socks?
Yeah, totally. So I chose socks, first of all, because it was a huge passion of mine. And I personally find that if there's something I really am passionate about and I would want to buy myself, it's 1,000 times easier for me to market it because I know exactly what I want to hear, what my customers want to hear. So for me, that was like the biggest thing for me is that I would do anything for a pair of these socks. And I knew that there had to be more kids like me out there. So like that was what I was bringing to the marketplace that was unique at the time is that I was a kid marketing to kids and my competitors were adults marketing to kids and they may not understand what they need to market. So that's part of what made me successful is that I'm marketing to my own friends essentially. That was a big part of it. And again, like, marketing to your own friends, you know what you want to see in terms of like what is actually on the sock. So it's been at the end of the day, that's what sets me apart from my competitors is actually the designs that go on the sock. And I'm the sole graphic artist. So I know as a kid what I want to see. So it's just a matter of I'm literally selling a product to my friends, except internationally.
Wow. Awesome. I'm a creative at heart, and it just sounds like, you are as well. And it sounds like, it's a job, but it's also an opportunity for you to express yourself, through your products. And so just how do you come up with an idea in terms of, okay, I want this graphic to be on this sock? How do those ideas start and then ultimately end up, on a sock?
Yeah, totally. And just like you said, it's a way to express yourself. I say that all the time, that's my favorite part is that I get to do the graphic design and that's my way of expressing myself to the world. It's like an artist's touch in a way. But the design ideas, so sometimes like they're just pretty random for the most part, but sometimes some of them like I'll follow trends. Or I found people like really goofy stuff. So I have 8 goats. So one day I went out into my field and like took a camera, took some pictures of them, went back into like Photoshop and chopped their heads out, tossed them onto a sock, and it's literally one of my best sellers now. It's just like crazy how a little idea that sounds dumb at the time could turn into something like that. So I mean, my ideas, but like I follow trends. So like say we're doing like for the NBA finals coming up right now, I may do some like, I don't ever use like logos and stuff because of the licensing aspect, but I mean, I'll totally make designs like with their colors and stuff, so people can still like represent their team and that type of thing. And really, if there's a good cause behind the socks, like there's got to be a little bit of a story behind it. I mean, that's great if there's a cool design, but it's even better if there's some sort of story or something to be told or felt behind the sock design, because people just love supporting things. Like that's the nature of it. So.
Yes, absolutely. So yeah, let's talk about those. I guess the customers, if you will. And you mentioned, starting out on the internet, selling to anybody in the world. So most of your product, does it go out for charities? Does it go out to repeat buyers? Like, what's usually the reason, someone is buying one of your socks?
Yeah, for sure. So I do a lot of my like advertising and marketing through social media and email marketing. And so I have a ton of repeat customers because of the way I run my company. We do everything the right way. We're same or next day shipping. It gets there 2 or 3 days. If it's not, we deal with it. Our customer service is outstanding. We deal with like every customer complaint. So people are always coming back to us. Now, I also started a program about 2 years ago called Hoop Swag Causes, which is a way for charities to raise money through us. So essentially, they come to us, we do a custom sock for them, put it on our website, and then they go advertise the link. And we advertise it as well to our customers, like our social media following. Yeah. And they get 20% back of all the proceeds. So we started doing a lot of that once I started that up, because it's a great thing for charities. It's a great way to help them raise money. We've donated thousands upon thousands of dollars to charities, and it's just awesome being able to do that. So I definitely do a lot of charity work there. And then we also do a lot with like different high school teams and stuff. I've run like a high school basketball program where we sponsor high school teams. And then we also do them for like youth teams. I mean, we do them for everyone. We like if you come to us and say, can we get a custom design? We'll do custom artwork for anything over 10 pairs, which most companies, their minimum order is 50, 100, much higher. And that's just something that, again, that sort of sets us apart from our competitors, is that we're willing to work with those people. But my customer base, I mean, it's a lot of repeat customers for sure. Because once you get one, treat them well, they're going to keep coming back to you. Like that's how business works. And so, I mean, yeah, definitely a lot of repeat customers, but we're also getting new customers all the time because people talk, and we get a lot. Again, like I said, people really like our brand and how we run. So people are always like word of mouth, like, wow, go check these guys out. They're doing some really cool stuff. So, I mean, all sorts of places.
Absolutely. For those who are just tuning in, this is Derrick Live with our special guest, Mr. Brennan Agranoff, the founder and CEO of Hoop Swag. Feel free to post you all's questions. If you have any questions for Brennan, go ahead and put them on here, and we'll make sure that we get those questions answered. I know I have a question. Brennan, when I talk to the people about business, one thing I always hear is that, oh, yes, I would start a business if I only had the time. If I only had more than 24 hours in a day. And I look at your example whereby, I'm curious, have you graduated yet?
No, I'm a junior in high school, so I'll be graduating next year.
You're a junior in high school. Wonderful, wonderful. So yeah, folks are like, I don't have enough time, but I look at your story. Yeah, you go to school and then you crank up the work and go and, run your business. So has that taken a toll on you? Has it been stressful? What do you say to those people who say, I just don't have time to start my business? Yeah,
I mean, I'm very, very delicate in the way that I spend my time. So everything I do throughout the day, I mean, there's a purpose behind it. I'm never just like sitting around like playing video games. And I mean, I like I said, I'm just always doing something. And so like I wake up in the morning, I go to school, and when I'm at school, I get school done. Like I don't mess around really. And I mean, that's just sort of my personality as well. I just get stuff done. Like that's how I work. So then as soon as I come home, I get to work. And then I usually end up, like tonight I've got soccer practice. And then I'll usually come home and work again. But at the end of the day, like if you want to start a business, and you like have the willpower to do that, you can make the time. If it's all about like setting your priorities. Like I mean, if you want something done, it's not that you don't have time. It's not that it's not prioritized enough. And if you want to get that done, you will set that priority high enough. It's just a matter of, are you going to do that or not? And how bad do you want to do that? So, I mean, for me, that's sort of what I run on is like, if there's something that needs to get done, I'm going to prioritize that and get it done. And if there's something that can wait, it can wait. And so, I mean, I try to balance my life as well as I can, sort of running off those basics, but yeah.
Absolutely. And when we talk about that balance in life, hey, most folks your age, in a year or two, they're going to college. They're about to use this window from 18 to 22 or whatever to kind of find themselves, kind of not be really responsible for, adult issues. There will be times for those and adult responsibilities. But it seems as though you jumped in head first. So my question to you is, first of all, after graduation, do you know what you're going to do? And if it is, no, I'm not going to college, do you think you'll be missing out on anything?
Yeah, definitely. So my plan as of now, I mean, this could totally change, but it's I'm going to apply to colleges this year, or going to my senior year, whenever that time is. But running right now, so I'm graduating after first trimester next year, and I'm going to run my business full time. So I'm going to sort of see how that plays out. Like if I hate it, I can move on and go to college or whatever, or start something new. I mean, I'll always find something to do. So, but my plan is to take a gap year. So I'll take a gap year, and then the college that I'm applying to, I'm going to make sure that I can still get in after that gap year. So once I take the gap year, I'm going to run my business full time, because right now I'm in school 6 hours a day. Like it's like half my day basically. And I know that if I'm at home working on this business or wherever it is, I can grow it much more substantially than it's growing now. So that's my plan in terms of that. And I've been talking to a ton of people lately, like, do I go to college? Do I not? Like, is that worth my time? Because that's a huge question for me. And what I'm sort of finding is that everyone's like, college is amazing. It's like fantastic. The experience is really cool. Like it's once in a lifetime. You really can't go back and do that. Now, does it make sense necessarily for you? That's something you have to decide. But what most of them are saying is that the biggest thing you get out of that is building those relationships, those connections, and meeting new people. And again, like you said, sort of discovering yourself. So it's going to be, there's tons of factors that are going to play into what I'm going to do. But I mean, college is definitely still on the table. It's just a matter of where I am at that point.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Man, it'll be interesting to see, you go to college and how Hoop Swag will be run, even as a full-time student. Kind of like what you're doing now. But I was hearing that you have, can you talk about just the manpower, the staff of Hoop Swag? I was hearing that it's about, 17 part-time employees? Is that what you have right now?
Yeah, so I've got 17 part-time employees, as well as my mom works full-time for me. She runs the production while I'm at school, so that's really cool. It's kind of crazy. But then I also, one of the biggest things that I've sort of learned along this path that I've got to travel along these past 4 years is, so a lot of people will start a business, but then you come to a point where you need to expand, right? But you can't expand without hiring help. And sometimes hiring help might make you lose a little bit of money because instead of you doing everything on your own. But without taking that step forward, you're not going to be able to grow your business, because no one can grow a business all by themselves at some point. There's going to hit a point where you need to hire people. And that was sort of a big realization for me. I wanted to do everything, and I just couldn't. And it was so tough hiring my first employee. And even now, managing employees is tough. I mean, to be honest, but I have a whole bunch of different freelancers I work with too that help me with different aspects of my job, whether that be the marketing, the graphic design. I mean, again, I'm in charge. I run everything, but sometimes you have to be able to let go a little bit and let some other people help, because you can only grow a business so big on your own. I mean, you can't run a business 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You got to take care of yourself as well. So.
Absolutely. When I was looking at your story, like many other entrepreneurs, the principle was, you kind of started off small. And I talked to some folks that, have big dreams, big aspirations. If they were coming out of the gate, they would have tried to rent in a huge warehouse. They would have tried to immediately try to get staff on board. But I don't think that was your story. I think you used what you had. And I think you allowed it to work for you. I mean, I was hearing the thing about you starting in your garage first. I mean, you have another warehouse now, but you started in your garage, and then you just mentioned, mom is helping out. So it's like you're using those things that are readily available for you to help you to succeed. I mean, do you think that's a good model for those?
Definitely. So yeah, definitely. Every step of the way and everything that you're doing in life, there's so many tools around you that you can utilize that most people just don't even pay attention to. Literally the biggest tool I've ever come across is the internet. There's so much information available on the internet that people just do not even take into account. So when I first started, I had no website, no designs, no nothing. I taught myself graphic design, web coding, and all that good stuff. And it's because I needed to learn it. And it's all available on the internet. It's just a matter of, are you going to spend the time to teach yourself to do things the right way and go learn that stuff, because it's going to pay off later. Now I don't have to think twice about that. And that stopped me from paying a graphic designer and a web coder, and it saved me money. And that's just a decision that I made I needed to spend my time doing in order to grow that. And no, but definitely utilize, there's so much, like I said, that you can utilize every step of the way. You literally want to take whatever you have and maximize what you can get out of it. whether that be people you're around, helping each other out, or even the tools that you have. Some people they think too big, and thinking big is great, right? It's amazing for ideas. But then when you want to execute, you have to come back to the fact that, is this realistic? Is this something I can actually carry out? And if so, how? And I think that's just a major part, but definitely like utilize everything that you have in your power, because that's how you're going to end up being successful.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I'm currently in this business coaching program, and my coach is telling me about the importance of branding. And not only, when it comes to visuals, videos, but also colors as well. I saw you rocking the purple hoodie. Is your brand color purple?
So this is always an issue. Yeah, it is purple, but my logo is black and white, and a lot of my branding I keep it mostly black and white. Just I like keeping it clean. But when I do add like a secondary color to the palette, it's usually purple. Yeah, I love the purple.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Folks have so many things to say about branding, and, honestly, have you found that, branding has been something that's very important to Hoop Swag? I mean, has it really helped you, in your business?
Yeah, I mean, definitely. To an extent. I mean, on Instagram and like my other social media platforms, people they know our logo, and it's the goal is to like associate our logo in people's minds with a brand that they can trust and they like, and it's good quality. Like that's the goal behind it. And my logo is like I don't know if you've seen it. It's like an H and an S inside of each other. And I don't know. I mean, definitely branding's played a huge part in what we do, because we brand everything before we send it out, whether it be like slips in the package, the emails they get, everything is consistent throughout the process. And it really adds like especially like for me from a consumer side, when I order things from someone, I want something to look good, and it's gotta work smoothly and look good. And those are the two main things for me. And so I try to apply what I would want as a consumer as I want to give that to my consumers.
Wow. I definitely heard that, I know you specialize in socks, but you also offer custom designs for other types of apparel. Is that true?
Yeah, so I sell shoelaces and sleeves, like for your arms as well. And then I also sell like hoodies and t-shirts with my logo on them.
Okay, awesome. Wow, I know this has been an exciting ride. I mean, what is your vision for Hoop Swag in the next 3 or 5 years? Have you given that any thought?
Yeah, I mean, thinking 3 or 5 years out is definitely tough. But I mean, there's definitely some like major goals for me. And one of those is to start working into more and more sort of getting retail spots. Not necessarily, it might not have to be like a big Walmart or a Target, but we started working with a bunch of like smaller mom and pop skate shops. And that's sort of a goal of mine, is to get more and more of those on board. So I'm showing up more nationally, basically reaching more people all over the nation. And it would be cool to even reach internationally. Another big thing for me that I'm really, like one of my main goals this year and over the next few years is, like I had mentioned before, I have a high school basketball program, and we sponsor high school teams. And so we sponsor the varsity team, and we give them like 15 pairs of free socks. And we then so we do a custom design for them with their logo and their colors and everything. The coach chooses their favorite design that we provide to them. So then we send them 15 of those in whatever size they need for their players. So then they could get the opportunity to wear those every game, as well as we put them on our site. And the coach can distribute that link to his program, the community, like all the younger basketball kids, the JV and freshman team. And we donate 20% of those proceeds back to them. So that's sort of tying into the charity thing again. And that's been like a big program. I started it last year, and it was sort of like a last minute thing, but it ended up working out really well, and people really liked it. So I'm definitely looking to expand on that. And be able to get it more nationwide, because, like I said, it's great for the high schools, and they get money back for their own program, which is just great. I mean, it works out great for everyone. So that's definitely like a big goal of mine over the next few years, is to grow that into potentially 1,000, 2,000 high schools on board.
Wow, that's awesome. That's awesome. When we're talking about the entrepreneurial spirit as well, concentrating on that. With the internet, and you have mentioned the benefits of the internet, and I believe, there are so many benefits with the internet. We talk about the subject of e-commerce, but then We talk about another pool of, potential customers in retail. So is it your intent to have the majority of your sales in retail, or is e-commerce going to be your base? I mean, how do you see that?
I mean, for me, there's, like you said, there's e-commerce and there's retail. And so far, my entire business has been all e-commerce. Like, my first retail opportunity was 6 weeks ago. And so I'm sort of testing the waters there, seeing how that's going to go. And so far, I mean, I think it's going pretty good. So it's just a matter of evaluating, sort of talking to those shop owners and evaluating how my product does in retail. Because the shopping experience retail versus e-commerce is totally different. And right now the landscape is sort of, everything's sort of shifting more and more every day to e-commerce. So, I mean, retail is obviously always going to be a thing. People want to touch the product, feel it, see it before they buy it. That's the hard part with e-commerce. So, but I mean, it's definitely something that's hard to evaluate just now because I kind of just got started in the retail market. But once I sort of see how that goes, it definitely could be a potential opportunity. But I mean, for the most part, I think e-commerce is sort of the way of the future. So,
I understand. Once again, you all are listening to Derrick Live. Special guest is Brennan Agranoff. Feel free to give your comments, your questions to the founder and CEO of Hoopswag. Go to hoopswag.com and get your merchandise today. Brennan, I do have another question because we are looking at CNN Money, we're looking at YouTube, and we're seeing the success story of Hoopswag. But have you had some challenges along the way? And how have you been able to navigate through those challenges? What would you say those challenges would be?
Yeah, there's so many challenges. I couldn't even name them all. But seriously, there's something new every day that comes up and just like stops progress. Like, I mean, it's just sort of how a business goes. And like, for example, when I was first starting, like I said, I wanted to start a sock company, but I have no website, no designs, and basically no idea how to sell these things. So I started an Instagram, basically taught myself I figured out how to get followers, a way that worked for me to get followers. And so that was I overcame my, basically I had no social media presence. So I got myself some social media. I taught myself coding and graphic design so I could make socks and sell socks. So those were just some challenges to get started. But within that, I mean, I had a problem. I couldn't afford to pay $1,000 for graphic design software. So I sort of worked out a way through the network of people that I know to get it a little bit cheaper. So it was something that could actually work for me. And like each step that I go, I just realized, because at first I was like, why isn't everybody going to do this, right? Like everybody could go start a sock company. And then I started to realize every time I overcame one of these challenges, it was another reason someone wouldn't do this. Sourcing things from China has been an extremely valuable lesson. The quality, it's just an entire process. It's not, hey, you don't just go on like Alibaba and go, hey, can I get some socks? I mean, for each like brand of sock that I want to have developed or a different version of it, it's like 7 to 8 weeks to get this thing developed. And it's talking to them every night. You just have to like the dedication to talk to them and all that stuff. It's just something that no one would ever really notice because it just goes unnoticed. But to me, I mean, I see all of this and there's these challenges every day. Like just last week we had a bad shipment of socks come in and now I'm out of socks. So what do? It's a matter of taking your problem and then finding a solution and not worrying about the problem anymore. It's sort of stop looking at the past and look ahead to the future. How are you going to fix this and what's going to happen? Like, how are you going to take care of it? And that's sort of like my mindset that I've had for overcoming all my issues. And another huge thing that's helped me along the way is finding mentors. Mentors have helped me greatly in so many different ways. They've helped me get new connections, find new people to sell to, find different products to sell, give me advice in terms of how I'm selling my products. Mentors are so extremely valuable, and I think sometimes they aren't as valued as they should be because there's so many problems that, I mean, some people, it's just life experience. That's what these mentors have, is they have life experience, and they know they've worked through these problems themselves. So they have potential solutions or different ways to solve things. And so that's been a huge way for me too, is having really awesome mentors that are happy to help and just help me guide me along my path a little bit.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You bought out the sockgame.com, is that true?
Yes, that's correct.
Wow. I'm sure that's a major accomplishment along the way. You don't have to go into too many details, but when we get to the point where our business is going so well, and we do have that opportunity to actually buy out our competitors, what are some of the things that that go along, that take place in that process? Was it beneficial for both parties? What were the things that were considered by both parties? Can you just give us a little a look into that type of process?
Yeah, definitely. So it was my first ever sort of transaction of businesses, and so that was totally new to me. I mean, I was 16 when they reached out to me, and so basically they had reached out to us by email, and the guy that we knew both of us existed. We knew each other existed. We'd been in the marketplace. We're like 2 out of the 3 big competitors in the marketplace, and so we'd never met or anything. But so he emailed us and was like, "Hey, we're sort of looking to sell. Is this something you might be interested in?" And so we, after talking with them, again, like you said, we sort of saw, could this be beneficial for both of us? Does it make sense? Because, I mean, if it doesn't make sense for both of us, it wouldn't really make sense to do in the first place. So once we sort of, evaluated where we were both at, how it could work for both of us, we sort of started to move forward and sort of work through the pieces, because there's so many aspects to acquiring a business in that, transition that, I mean, I didn't know existed until I'd gone through it. And it's just sort of getting the experience of it. But I mean, definitely, we both sort of considered every aspect of it, how is this going to affect us? And does it make sense for us? I mean, because at the end of the day, if it doesn't make sense, like I said, there's no point in doing it. So, I mean, that was definitely a huge aspect. Does this make sense?
Absolutely. Does this make sense? Yeah. Not going to take too much more of your time. I will get to maybe a few more questions, and then we'll hold the audience, and if not, you can go to soccer practice. But you mentioned mentors. I'll tell you, I'll be honest, man. Just in my line of work, it is kind of tough to find a mentor. When I think about a mentor, you have to think to find someone that's actually doing what you're doing, that's done it in the past, that can give you tips. And I'll just be honest, man, sometimes when I evaluate my life, I don't see a lot of people that, are doing exactly what I'm doing, so it's kind of hard to be a mentor. How did you search for one and find one? How was that process?
Yeah, so one of the biggest things that's sort of helped to get me to where I am today is the building of connections with people. And I have found the mentors in places you would never expect. For example, my 8th grade teacher's best man is one of my good buddies now. And that's literally just because I started talking to my 8th grade teacher, and he's like, "Hey, I got this buddy that runs a business. You guys should totally hook up and talk sometime." I mean, went and got coffee with him 2 years ago, and now I talk to him on every week. And so it's just sort of reaching out, and it might make you a little bit uncomfortable, but reaching out and searching for connections through people, because there's these really valuable connections that people you might not know is there. You just have to go search for them. They're not going to come to you. You have to go out and get those things. And I mean, I've had so many mentors that I've talked to, and they've been amazing to me. And it's but I found another guy. Sometimes you got to email people. Send them an email. They don't, even if they don't know who you are. Most people are generally good people and are totally willing to help you out. It's just they're not going to reach out to you. You have to go ask for that. And you know what I mean? So, I mean, that's one of my biggest things is don't be afraid to ask, because you're never going to get an answer unless you ask. So don't be afraid to ask and go reach out to people and meet new people. And I mean, some people are just going to be awful about it. I mean, you're going to have haters and stuff. I mean, it just exists in the world. So you just got to go for it and sort of screw what everyone else thinks.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think before I end with my final question, I do want to just ask you about the logistics part of the business. Because again, when I was reading your story and I was discerning that, okay, this is not a guy who grew up, in a sock business family. I discerned that, okay, you took 6 months worth of time to actually learn the business, learn the equipment, learn the processes. How was that process? Because, when you're starting to learn a new trade, sometimes you can get discouraged because you may not be good at it, but you oftentimes need to realize that, hey, this has to be done if I'm going to be successful in this.
Yeah, so it's sort of like the research process and how I went through that.
Yes.
Yeah. So, I mean, it was stuff I'd never really researched before. Google is so powerful, but like what got me to continue going is I took these little successes that I could get. So getting someone to respond to my email and answer some questions or offer to help, that was like a little bit of success for me because that's someone who's willing to help and eventually get me to my goal, which was figuring out how to do this. I reached out to a ton of people over message boards. I was like up all night watching YouTube videos about the equipment, different examples, applications of it. And I mean, it was like I just had something inside of me too that was super excited about this. Like I couldn't sleep at night. I was so excited thinking about what I'm going to do. And like, again, like those little successes just really, they kept giving me those boosts to keep going. And then once I finally got, I figured out how to make them. And like, at that point I was like, like whatever, I've been searching 6 months. Like it's about time. But then when you think back, it's like, wow, like I worked for that. I put my time in. I really like grinded that out and talk to people. I would go to talk to print shops. I talk to everyone, get as much information as I can, and then see what I could do with it. And so it's just a matter of going and putting the time in and putting the effort in and going and doing it.
I hear you. I understand. So I'm going to wrap up with this question because as entrepreneurs, I always feel and believe that the internet is our friend. The internet has leveled the playing field, so to speak. So when you talked about the social media aspect of how you use it to your advantage, for these folks out here that are listening to this live, that are watching this live, that are going to watch the replay, if they just didn't know how to go about a social media strategy, what basic social media strategy would you recommend to them so that they can really exploit this for the advantage of their business? Definitely.
So now, more than ever, with all the new like ways that Facebook and Instagram and Twitter choose to display your content to your followers, because a few years ago, like I had 70,000 followers, and they would send it to all 70,000. Nowadays, it gets shown to maybe 3,000 based on what the certain people who do see it, who it's shown to, how they interact with it. So that decides whether or not it's shown to more or less people. And the one biggest tip, if I could go back and sort of redo, and even now I'm still trying to implement, is 100 followers that you have personal connections with is 10 times better than 100,000 followers who you don't know. And that's because those 100 followers are loyal to you. They feel like they have a personal connection, whereas if you're an account with 100,000 followers, and I'm not saying you can't have 100,000 followers, I'm just saying start with those 100 and build good relationships with them. Because now more than ever, I mean, I get Snapchat. So I have a Snapchat, and I have like 5,000 people in there. And I cannot tell you the number of times that because I open everyone's Snapchat who Snapchats me, and I'll respond and talk to them. The amount of times they're like, whoa, you actually opened it? Like, I've never heard from a company before. Like, it's just the fact of like where we are in time right now. People want that interaction and to know that there's someone on the other side of the phone that is hearing what they're saying, because people love talking. They love talking about themselves. I mean, so if someone's there to listen or just respond to them and interact with them, it builds, like, people begin to like your brand because they know that you're real. There's some sort of sense of personality there, whereas a brand that could have 1 million followers but's never talked to any of them is just pictures and videos. But whereas if you're building actual relationships with your followers, you're a person. You're a real thing behind the camera.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right. So I know you have to go to soccer practice probably in about 25 minutes or so.
Yeah.
I'll end it like this. Brennan, I want to thank you for taking the time out of your day to actually help me help others, because I tell you, this entrepreneurial, I guess, journey, it can be tough sometimes. And so when we have some examples like you, you know, it's just very rewarding to hear firsthand from the guy who's been in our position and he's a success now. So Brennan, I really thank you. I really, from the bottom of my heart, thank you for lending us your time today.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks for having me on. And if anyone ever has any questions, just feel free to have them email me. I'm totally happy to respond and talk to people. So thanks for having me on, though. I really appreciate it.
Oh, no problem. And lastly, if they want to talk to you, what's the best place to find you?
I'm on Twitter at Brennan Agranoff. I'm on Facebook, just under Brennan Agranoff, or you can email me at brennan@hoopswag.com.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Brennan. I really appreciate it. And continue to do what you're doing.
Awesome. Keep the show up. I love it.
Awesome. Okay. And I'll be talking to you about something else, but I'll talk to you later, all right?
Awesome. Sounds good.
All right. Take care.
You too.
All right. Bye. All right, folks. We had a wonderful show today. I thank Brennan Agranoff for actually coming on the show, lending me his time, lending you his time. He is a living example that if you have a passion for something, you can ensure that it is displayed to the masses. If only you just put your mind to it, you actually do the research. If you remember him talking, he was talking about that research that he put in 6 months. And I said this last week, 6 months for a 13-year-old, that could mean like 6 years, honestly, in his mind. So the fact that he put that discipline in there shows you that it can be done. So, hey, you all go to first of all, I know there are some basketball fans out there. I know there's just some athletic fans out there that love socks and sleeves and, whatever you want. Brennan Agranoff has those items. Go to www.hoopswagg.com today and make sure that you get your socks today. Custom-made socks. Thank you, Brennan Agranoff. Thank you, Jamil Mason, for showing your comment. He says, great video. Thank you, guys. Thank you for tuning in. And so, hey, after this, and going forward, I need y'all to do one thing for me. If you like these videos that I'm giving you, if you like the subject matter experts that are coming on here and presenting their story, like the video. Most importantly, share and subscribe to my YouTube channel. So like the video, subscribe to the video, and share it on my YouTube channel. Subscribe to my YouTube channel. Okay, and as always, if you have any other questions or anything that you want to ask, feel free to leave the question in the comments. I will respond to you. If you have any questions for Brennan, I will make sure that he gets them. And hey, we're going to continue to win on purpose. You can do this, you guys. You can start a business. You can do whatever you want to do. We have people that have solidified the fact that it can be done. All right, until next time, this is Derrick Live. This is the show, Derrick Live. I'm your host, Derrick Cash. And stay positive, stay informed, stay motivated, win on purpose. Peace.